So my name is Brandyce. I go to Roxborough location and I've been there for about 2 years. When I first started coming to church, I started going to a Christian church with my mom, and it was weird to me. You had to dress a certain way, you had to act a certain way, you had to talk a certain way, and church had kind of turned me off for a number of years, but I knew I've always wanted that relationship to be closer with God. My husband had just started a new job being a conductor, which is, very stressful. He works sometimes 80 hours a week. And I had just had a baby, and it was our first year of marriage. At the same time, my grandma was actually dying, which I was extremely close to her. I lived with her, and me and my mom lived with her for years. So I was with my grandma nonstop. I had this little baby, and my husband was working. Eventually, I hit rock bottom. It was to the point where, he was coming home and we weren't speaking, and I had this little itty baby and a dying grandma. One day I came home and he packed up his stuff and he left. He went to his mom's house and he said, before I physically cheat on you, I would leave you first. So he did pack up and leave. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to turn to. I didn't know who to talk to. And what I did was, one day I just got on my knees and I prayed. I went to his mom's house and she's like, you can't stay here. You need to go back home and work it out. He came back home. He cried. We cried together, and we decided we need a church home. I've heard about Epic Church through a family member, and he actually started taking my son to church. So he would say, Anthony, do you want to come to church? And my son would go, yeah, I want to go to church. I'm going to church. My son would go to church every Sunday, and I would get him dressed and send him out the door because I still thought church was weird. But I felt really bad sending him without me, because he would come home and say, Mom, you going to church next Sunday? And I say, oh, maybe. And then I would send him out the door that next Sunday. Eventually, I got up the courage and I said, my son is not going to keep going to church without me. I went out the door with him. I packed my daughter up and we went to church. I loved it. My kids loved it. They were asking me every day of the week, are we going to church? And I'm like, church is Sunday. It's not Sunday yet. Oh, we're going to church. We're going to church. I actually took my husband. He loved it. That next Sunday, I was looking around for my husband. He didn't wait for me. He left me and went to church on his own. He left me and my children. So I'm like, since when do we start leaving each other? He was like, you were too slow. So it was a sign that once my husband loved it and my kids absolutely love Epic, it all came together and church no longer became weird.